We didn't cause the problem, but we're dealing with it the best way we can. So.
This may look like a harmless Christmas tree, but in some parts of New Zealand, Pinus contorta is wreaking havoc on the landscape.
Contorta is planted for two reasons in the central North Island. One, for conservation of some of these scree slopes back in the 50s and 60s. The second reason, which was forestry.
Contorta, a type of wilding pine, was once thought useful. Now it's growing wild and in some areas uncontrolled.
Contorta has the lightest seed of all our Pinus species. That light seed would blow upwards of 20 kilometres in a good wind. So a forest established someplace infected areas up to 20 k's away.
For decades there's been an ongoing effort to keep these pine species from taking over the Central Plateau.
Horizons has been one of the many organisations controlling contorta particularly, but other wilding conifer species as well, at least since the 80s.
As a custodian, John's job is to look after a total of 6,000 acres of land in the Central Plateau.
I ran out of mates at one stage there because I used to give them a bottle of Vigilant and a handsaw.
With many native plant varieties endemic to these parts of the North Island, conservation is key.
Colonising is contorta's game. It takes it from a rocky, tussocky, open environment into a forest that's impenetrable, 10,000 stems per hectare, huge numbers of trees, no birds, virtually no wildlife, and no native vegetation, or a blanket of green and a marching army of green over a landscape.
Rightio, so this is the pilot side of the aircraft. That little spot sprayer boom just plugs in there.
So we're using the herbicide as opposed to cutting trees down, if we can, because a cut tree falls down. In its lying down state, it holds the cones up off the ground. So the seed remains viable for a lot longer, and we end up with a problem that we've created that's almost as bad as having a coning tree existing.
Many alternatives to spraying have been considered, including milling.
The contorta timber, great for firewood, highly resinous, it's no good for framing, and yes, it can be used for pulp. But where we find contorta creating its problem, the extraction costs far outweigh the benefit that you're going to get from it.
One of the most successful control methods is basal barking. It targets just the wilding pines with no collateral damage.
So at the moment we have a good handle on the projected future of contorta, and it's not looking good for it because we've got investment from our ratepayers and from the other government agencies. However, if we stop and if we don't deal to the sources, we're going to either be doing it forever or we're going to start to lose ground because the problem can get worse.
Georgie Ormond, Local Focus.